Welcome back to Only Talk Sports. We talk sports every single day, or at least we try to. I'm Ernst Jeffrey. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Hit that notification bell so you never miss our video. We know that Nick Saban has just retired from Alabama football, possibly the greatest coach of all time in college football history, is no longer coaching football. It's a tough loss for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and it's going to be a very tough job for whoever is going to be replacing Nick Saban. Me and WillND, we go over some coaching candidates for Alabama football to replace Nick Saban, which coach we believe has the best chance to get the job, and which coach we believe would be the best candidate for the job. Candidates to replace Nick Saban. And there are a few names. Obviously, as Tyga said, Dan Lanning is the top of the list candidate for a lot of people. He's 37 years old, so he's a young name, young guy. Now, with a young guy, though, there's a couple caveats with that because, number one, if he does really well at Alabama, just say like he goes out there and is able to continue the success that Nick Saban did, will he stay or will he go off to the NFL? Will he make, the jump up to that level? Or him being young as well, will he not be experienced enough to handle the pressure of a job like this from an all-time great in Nick Saban? Because to me, like, you are going to have a lot going for you to be able to have the ability to follow up Nick Saban. It is not going to be easy.
For sure. Especially with Dan Lanning. I mean, if he takes the job, he's the heavy favorite to take the job.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to have to get better at in-game coaching. Like, that Washington game, man, he kept going for it. I mean, especially if you're going against Georgia, like, Georgia will capitalize on that mistake. Like, he needs to hire someone, and I'm sure Bama would do this if he would be willing to follow through with this. Hire someone to, like, manage the clock for him during the game. So he can just focus on getting the players ready to go for the game.
Yeah, my thing is with Dan Lanning is that, to your point about getting better at in-game coaching, and I 100% agree because, and I think that's partly due to the fact that he is such a young guy. He's not been a head coach that long. I mean, that's a big negative about Alabama possibly hiring him, is that he just was a defensive coordinator not too long ago at Georgia, and now he got the head coaching job. He's not been a coach that long, head coach. And I thought Oregon was the better football team this year over Washington, and I still believe that, even though people disagree with me, because Washington went out there and they beat them twice, and that holds merit. Don't get me wrong. It absolutely holds merit. But Kalen DeBoer got the most out of that team. I'm not saying Dan Lanning didn't at Oregon, but Oregon had a lot of talent. We know they do. They bring in high-level guys. They bring in talented players. They got a lot of NIL. They have a lot of things going for them right now in the modern day. And Dan Lanning had a good football team this year. Bo Nix, Bucky Irving, Troy Franklin had a good defense. I believe they were the more complete team than Washington. Based on their offense and defense, they were better than Washington, but they didn't win the games. And like you said, there was questionable play calls. Like you said before we went live, yes, Dan Lanning probably better than Mario Cristobal at in-game, coaching decisions, but still a lot of question marks. And that would be a downgrade for Alabama to go from Nick Saban to Dan Lanning when it comes to in-game coaching, and a guy that has a lot less experience. Now, Jared Jones, he says, I don't think Lanning leaves Oregon. That's what he says. But it definitely seems like the hot topic right now. But Ty also, I wouldn't want to fall Saban. Only Kevin would want to, laughing out loud. I wouldn't want to either. I really would.
Lanning seems like the type of guy that would, though. He's just someone that seems like he's very confident in himself.
Well, I mean, him taking a job like Oregon at such a young age kind of proves that. I mean, going from Georgia, as defensive coordinator to Oregon as the head coach, and then you face Georgia in your first game and you get blitzed. That was ugly. I mean, that was absolutely ugly. They turned it around. They turned it around from that. But I remember when that game happened, people thought it was the end. Like, damn, Lanning is already on the hot seat from game one. Like, no. That Georgia, it's like they knew everything he was going to do. But I don't think Dan Lanning would be a horrible option. It's just, for me, it's like you're following Nick Saban. You got to find a way to hire the best option. Maybe Dan Lanning ends up being the guy. If he gets hired, hopefully Alabama gets the right staff around him. Hopefully he improves on what he has shown at Oregon. so he can go to Alabama and keep them at the top of the sport, toward the top anyway, in the top 5 or 10, so they can make the playoff every year and be still one of the best programs. But Dan Lanning does have some question marks, but he is for sure the favorite. The second guy on the candidates list, you got Steve Sarkisian. I don't know how much smoke's going his way. I mean, he's had some failures as a coach at other jobs, but he's gotten it together at Texas, just taking him to the playoff. What are your thoughts on him being a possible
I don't
candidate?
think he would leave Texas. Texas is at the same level as Bama as a program.
I agree.
They're going to be really good next year, too.
But see, some Oregon fans would say that they're all the same level, which that's not true. It's not even close. Texas is way more on Alabama's level. Probably, like you said, right at the level. Oregon's way below. Yeah, I don't think he would leave either.
It's not gonna happen.
I don't even know if Alabama would want to hire him because he just had one good season. Can he follow that up? He's had a lot of seasons as a coach in the past where he struggled. So Steve Sarkisian definitely a candidate. It's a possibility, but I'm like you. I would not leave. Now, a bigger extreme on a person that you wouldn't leave is some people saying Kirby Smart. Kirby Smart is at Georgia, winning all these games, won 2 national titles. He's bringing in all these great players. Why would he go to Bama? That would be horrible. I know people say, well, Saban went from LSU to Bama, but
LSU went to the NFL. He went to the NFL between that.
That's true. That is true.
And they couldn't fire Les Miles because Les Miles just had a great year.
Yeah, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. I 100% agree. So it wouldn't make sense for Kirby to go to Alabama. It's a completely different situation than with Nick Saban, with the LSU to, like you said, the NFL to Bama. A lot of people just say LSU to Bama, but yeah, he did go to the NFL for brief. And that's why, it didn't work out and then he got the Bama job. But it's just Kirby Smart's not leaving. He's not even on the list. But I'm just saying, like, to your point, Will, Steve Sarkisian also just wouldn't make sense to leave, especially because he's had a comparable job. Jared Jones says, what jobs would you guys say are equal to Bama?
Texas, Georgia, Oklahoma, Georgia, USC, Notre Dame.
Oklahoma,
Well, you can win at Oklahoma.
You can, but are they on the same level? I don't know.
I mean, they're a blue blood. That's what I was saying. They're in blue blood.
What about Ohio State and Michigan? You didn't say anything about them.
Yep. Yeah, sorry. I forgot about them.
I was about to say, like, Ohio State, Jerry Jones here, Buckeye fan. He's probably like, we got to be in the conversation.
Yeah, sorry.
See, Clemson isn't either. Clemson's not either, right? Because, I mean, they have certain things going against them. And see, that's the next candidate on the list. Dabo Swinney, Clemson coach. Clemson's not on Alabama's level. So it would be an upgrade for him to go to Alabama. But my biggest thing is that Dabo Swinney has to use the transfer portal.
He won't. He's too stubborn.
He has to use it, though, if he's going to be able to be at Alabama and if he's going to be able to work at Clemson. Because I think that if he does not use the portal, he's never going to be able to get Clemson back to the title level, to the national championship contention. I don't think
the problem with Dabo, and this isn't just a Dabo problem, there's also a Clemson problem. Clemson doesn't have as many wealthy boosters as other schools do.
That's why I'm saying Clemson's not on Alabama's level.
So they could use NIL, but they can't do it like even as big.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I know, like, if there was any Clemson fans in chat right now, they would be upset that I'm saying that Clemson's not on the level because, like, well, we won 2 titles, but they're not on the level. Like you said, they don't have the NIL boosters. You have to be able to have the money to compete. I know A&M has the money, but A&M isn't winning right now. We'll see if they eventually do. It's not all about the money. You have to have the coaches and the right foundation, but still. Ty Goss is Smart's a Georgia grad. He's not leaving. 100%. Yeah. He's not leaving. Just some people have thrown that around, and it's hilarious. Ty Goss said, don't want Dab. He's too nice of a guy. I mean, being nice is good, but you have to have other intangibles, too. You have to be willing to adapt. And
Dabo can be mean, though, but I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Jared Jones says, agree. Clemson's a tier 2 job, Oregon, Tennessee type of job. I agree.
I don't know if I would even put Tennessee in tier 2. I might drop them down to tier 3. Sorry, Tennessee fans.
Oh, no. Rocky Top's coming for Will. Rocky Top's coming. I mean, I get it, though. They're not the same. You have to be at the tippity top in everything. Fan support, NIL, a lot of areas to be able to call yourself a tier 1 job. So Dabo, if he doesn't adapt, he's not the right candidate. Then you got Kalen DeBoer. This is another one that he doesn't have a lot of head coaching experience. Like,
well, he not at the highest level.
I agree. He was at the lower level. I know, but I don't even really count that. I know some people say that it counts because you're winning at that level, but it's not the same. Those are small schools. I'm talking about Fresno and Washington. Those two jobs I count, and he has not been at the highest level of college football for very long. He's coached for a long time, a lot longer than Lanning. He's older than Lanning, but he has not been able to, showcase for many seasons, like for a decade or so, that he can be at the top of college football coaching in the FBS. And I think what he has shown in the limited time at Washington, Fresno State is fantastic. And what he did show, to your point, Will, at the smaller schools is great too. But he's more of a wild card. I don't know if he's a serious candidate.
I think he would take it, but he wouldn't be one of my first choices.
Yeah, he would take the job, I would think. I think he would. And it might, mean maybe they get Grubb too. Maybe he would move from OC, from Washington to Bama as well. I don't know what would happen with Tommy Rees, but I don't know.
Oh, Tommy. Who knows what the heck's going to happen to Tommy?
I know. It's like, what's going to happen with Tommy Rees? It's who knows? Even though I feel like he would almost be better than Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning is all the rumors, and it looks like that's more of a likelihood than Kalen DeBoer. Then you got Mike Vrabel on this list.
He wouldn't go. But maybe he goes to Ohio State next year if they fire Ryan Day.
Yeah.
But that would probably be the only way he would go to college.
Yeah, I don't think that he would go to Bama either. Then you got Lane Kiffin. He's a good offensive coach, but I don't think so.
The boosters wouldn't want Lane because he would be too mouthy, and he would also he's too much with the women, too much womanizing.
Well, I mean, there's been a lot of other successful coaches that have had issues like that in the past, but I mean, I don't think Lane Kiffin's gonna get the job either. I mean, plus he's assembled that really good roster at Ole Miss. And plus, he probably now, if you're in the mind of Lane Kiffin, you're probably thinking now that Alabama doesn't have Nick Saban, I can beat him. Right?
I think Lane would take the job, even with the roster.
I think he would take the job. Because
he would just take all the players from the portal that he wants from Ole Miss.
Well, he would, but I don't think Alabama would hire him. I don't think they would offer him. But yeah, he'd take the job. He would be one that would take the job. But
Mike Price.
Oh,
he is.
Jared Jones says, I think Kiffin would do great at Bama, but the boosters probably wouldn't allow it. RC, appreciate for being here. He says Michigan punched Saban into retirement. I don't think that's the case. I think it's more of NIL and the portal and his age and maybe medical.
Yeah, it's his age.
I don't think it's
health problems due to his age. It's health problems.
Ty Guy says Tennessee is a teacher. Oh boy, I love it. You guys are awesome in the comments right now. And the last candidate on this list, you got Dan Quinn.
28-3. No, he's more known for losing to the Patriots.
Yeah, I remember that game. The Atlanta Falcons, man, they had the game. How do you lose that lead? Yeah, Dan Quinn's not serious, I don't think. So if Dan Lanning's the guy, Will, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being yes and 1 being no, what would you give that hire of Dan Lanning?
I give it a 6.
He's just so unproven. So I would say 5 or 6, 5.5. I'd go 5.5. I mean, he could end up being better, but you're replacing possibly the GOAT, the greatest of all time coach in college football, with a 37-year-old coach that has never been able to win at the highest level yet. He got close this year, but he didn't do it. And he hasn't coached that long. I just don't know. I just think that, to me, that's a massive downgrade. Anything's a massive downgrade. But RC says, I go with a 5 with Lanning. I agree. 5.5 is for me, 5 or 6. But yeah, if you have a guy, Will, who would you hire if you were Alabama?
Mike Norvell.
That guy, he wasn't.
How was he not on the list? He wasn't
on that list, but he was on other lists that I saw. I saw other lists, and he was on those lists. Mike Norvell, to me, is a guy that, like you mentioned as well before we went on, he's had experience as a coach. He was at Memphis, and he did good there. And then he's done really good turning around Florida State. And unlike Dabo Swinney, he uses the portal. He big time uses the portal. That's why they got as good as they did. And I know everybody was like, Florida State wasn't that good, and that's why they got destroyed. When they were fully healthy, that was a good football team. No, they were not really on Georgia's level or maybe Michigan's, but they were really good. He brought in a lot of talent. So I think Mike Norvell actually would be a better option than Dan Lanning based on what we know now. Again, maybe Lanning becomes that guy, but I really do think Norvell would be better. Subscribe to the channel if you like sports content. Like this video down below. Comment down below which coach you think should be the successor to Nick Saban and which coach you think Alabama will ultimately end up hiring. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is in the description, and I will see you next time.